Kwame lived in a small, quiet village nestled between rolling hills and dense forests. His house was humble, but filled with love. Kwame had a beautiful wife, Adana, and 3 children, whom he adored more than anything. Despite their modest means, their lives were rich in warmth and happiness. Kwame was a hardworking man, known in the village for his dedication to his family. He worked tirelessly on other farmers' lands, toiling under the hot sun to earn what little money he could. His wife, Adana, was just as industrious. She sold fruits and vegetables in the local market to support the family, managing the household with grace and strength. Though their work was exhausting, they never complained, for their love for each other and their children made the struggles bearable. Kwame's life, though difficult, was simple. He found joy in small moments: his children's laughter, the warmth of a shared meal, and the comfort of his wife's embrace. But like many who labor in poverty, he longed for something more, a future where his family would never have to face hunger or hardship. Yet, every day seemed the same: endless work for little return. But through all the challenges, Kwame remained a man of integrity, never compromising his values, always putting his family first. Despite his hard-working nature and dedication to his family, Kwame's life was marked by inequality. His wealthier friends, men who had inherited land and titles, often mocked him for his poverty. These friends, who had everything handed to them, belittled Kwame for his humble beginnings. They were quick to remind him that no matter how hard he worked, he would always remain poor. One day, during a gathering in the village square, Kwame was humiliated in front of many others. His friends, fueled by arrogance, forced him to perform demeaning tasks that made him feel small. They laughed as he struggled, mocking his simple attire and the state of his worn shoes. Kwame's heart sank, but his love for his family kept him grounded. He knew that despite the humiliation, he had to remain focused. His children were counting on him, and he could not afford to let their happiness be tainted by his own sorrow. Yet, the sting of their treatment lingered, and Tar silently vowed to change his fate. One day, Kwame, exhausted from his endless work on the farms, found himself staring out over the vast horizon, contemplating his future. His thoughts were interrupted by the appearance of Chief Obi, the wealthiest and most powerful man in the village. Obi was known for his great riches, vast estates, and the respect he commanded from everyone, even the king. Kwame, seeing an opportunity for better work, approached Obi, hoping that the chief might offer him something that could change his life. After a long and exhausting harvest alongside his sons, Kwame received a portion of his payment from Obi. The chief, noticing Kwame's diligence and hard work, told him that the full payment would be given the next day. Intrigued and hopeful, Kwame accepted the invitation, unaware that this encounter would be the turning point of his life. Chief Obi, known for his cunning and shrewd ways, had something more than just work on his mind. Kwame could feel it, the promise of something greater, though he couldn't yet fathom what it would entail. The next day, Kwame returned to Obi's estate, eager to collect his payment. But the chief had something else to propose. He offered Kwame an opportunity for instant wealth through a secret ritual, one that promised riches without bloodshed or harm. Obi spoke of a ceremony that would grant Tar everything he had ever desired: riches beyond imagination, land, and influence. Kwame hesitated. He had heard rumors of such rituals in the past, tales of great power gained at the expense of one's soul. However, The temptation of wealth, the thought of his children growing up without the burden of poverty, stirred something deep inside him. Obi, sensing Kwame's hesitation, presented him with a generous sum of gold, enough to fill a small chest. "This is only the beginning," Obi said. "Trust me, and you will never have to worry about a thing again." The promise of wealth, the chance to give his family the life they deserve, made Kwame's resolve weaken. Though his instincts whispered caution, the weight of his responsibilities as a father and husband pushed him to accept the offer. His mind raced with thoughts of the life he could give his children. No more poverty, no more struggle. Kwame, driven by desperation and the promise of a better life, agreed to Obi's offer. The ritual was a mysterious and ancient practice that would change his life forever. An old man, shrouded in mystery, conducted the ritual. He told Kwame that wealth would come to him in exchange for a price. Kwame, still unsure, proceeded with the ceremony, the air thick with anticipations and fear. The following days brought incredible changes. Kwame's life transformed overnight. He was given land, gold, and servants, all the trappings of wealth. People who had once mocked him now bowed in respect. His old friends who had once humiliated him now treated him with deference, unaware of the true cost of his newfound fortune. They admired his success and sought his company, forgetting the years of disdain they had shown him. However, deep inside, Kwame felt a growing unease. The wealth that had come so easily had also brought a deep emptiness. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. As he gazed upon his wealth, he wondered what price he had truly paid. Though his outward life was filled with luxury, his inner turmoil gnawed at him. Kwame knew, deep down, that he could never truly escape the life he had come from, no matter how much wealth he amassed. Adana, while happy for the family's newfound prosperity, was wary. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She kept pressing Kwame for answers, but he remained tight-lipped, dismissing her concerns. He was focused on enjoying his wealth, but Adana's suspicions lingered. She could not understand where all of this had come from, and her unease only grew stronger as Kwame refused to share the truth. As time went on, Kwame's wealth attracted the attention of his old friends. They were amazed by his sudden prosperity and began visiting him, eager to know the secret behind his newfound fortune. Kwame's friends, who had once mocked him for his poverty, now admired him for his success. They were desperate to know how he had managed to accumulate such wealth. But Kwame, aware of the dark forces behind his fortune, refused to reveal the truth. He could not bring himself to tell them that his wealth had come at a terrible price, a price involving an ancient ritual and sacrifices to the gods. The secret weighed heavily on him, but he feared that revealing it would cost him not just his wealth, but also the respect of his friends. The tension grew as his friends continued to ask questions. Kwame felt cornered. On the one hand, he feared losing his wealth and status if the secret was discovered. On the other hand, he didn't want to risk losing the respect of those who now treated him as an equal. The pressure of keeping the secret began to take its toll on him, but he remained silent, hoping that he could maintain the illusion of success. One day, Kwame was approached by an old man who appeared to have come from deep within the forest. The man spoke to him about the gods, claiming that they had summoned Kwame for a special purpose. According to the old man, the gods had granted him his wealth, but they demanded a price, a sacrifice. In exchange for the riches he had received, The gods required the life of his daughter, Sana. Kwame was taken aback. The idea of sacrificing his own daughter was horrifying, but the old man was insistent. He told Kwame that if he did not fulfill the god's demand, he would lose everything: his wealth, his newfound status, and his family's comfort. Kwame was torn. He loved his daughter dearly and could not fathom the thought of harming her. But the pressure of losing everything he had worked for weighed heavily on him. He struggled to make the right choice, but the fear of losing his wealth and all that it had brought him made him hesitant. In his heart, Kwame knew that what he was being asked to do was wrong, but the fear of the consequences kept him from rejecting the offer. The god's demand echoed in his mind, and the fear of losing his newfound life made the decision even harder. Kwame loved his daughter, Sana, more than anything in the world. Her laughter was his solace, and her happiness was his pride. Yet, driven by desperation and the fear of losing everything, he convinced himself that he had no choice but to proceed with the god's demand. With a heavy heart, he prepared for the unthinkable. He mixed a sleeping potion into Sana's juice, watching in silent agony as she drank it and fell unconscious. Fighting his tears, he lifted her fragile body and began his somber journey into the depths of the forest. Unbeknownst to Kwame, Adana had grown increasingly suspicious of his behavior. That night, her unease deepened when she noticed him slipping out of the house with Sana in his arms. Overcome by dread, she decided to follow him, her heart pounding with every step. The forest loomed ahead, shrouded in darkness, as Adana's worst fears began to unfold. Adana's heart broke when she realized what Kwame was about to do. She confronted him, and Kwame tried to explain, but the guilt and fear in his eyes were evident. She immediately ran to the villagers for help, and together they intervened before it was too late. The villagers were furious and shocked by Kwame's actions. They had once respected him, but now they saw him as a man capable of terrible things. Adana, torn between love for her husband and her sense of right and wrong, was devastated by his betrayal. Kwame was caught and exposed, and the ritual was stopped. His plan had failed, and his darkest secret was revealed to the whole village. The villagers held him accountable for his actions, and his wealth no longer brought him the respect it once did. Kwame was brought before the king, who had heard of his actions and wanted to make an example of him. Kwame confessed to his wrongdoings, explaining how he had been manipulated by the god's demands and his own greed. He admitted that his fear of losing everything had clouded his judgment and led him to make the terrible decision to sacrifice his own daughter. The king, though angry and disappointed, showed mercy. He spared Kwame's life, but sentenced him to prison for the rest of his days. The king hoped that this punishment would serve as a lesson to others who might be tempted to make deals with dark forces. Kwame's once wealthy life had been reduced to nothing. His wealth was gone, and his reputation was tarnished beyond repair. In prison, Kwame spent his remaining years reflecting on his choices. He regretted everything he had done: the lies, the sacrifice, and the harm he had caused to his family. He longed for redemption and forgiveness, especially from Adana and his children. But he knew that no amount of regret could undo the damage he had caused. All he could do now was hope that one day his family might forgive him for the terrible mistakes he had made.